Hi, everybody. I'm Ronnie.
Hello, and I'm Jenny, and we are
Who
the
are
Heart and
we?
Soul Sisters.
Yes, we are.
I just
And
wanted to jump right in there and put
good
that
for
out there.
you. Good for you, because I was going to throw it back at you anyway, sister.
I'm
So
picking up what you're putting down.
I love it. I love it. So, yeah, I'm going to throw back at you again because I want you to tell us what we're doing today.
Okay. So, what we are doing today is we're talking about a lovely little jewel of a book that I picked up from watching a program on Gaia. And I wish I could give the person credit that was talking about this book, but I thought, okay, I'm writing that one down. There's another one to add to my list that I need to read. And this one is called The Four Agreements. It was written by Don Miguel Ruiz, and it's based on the Toltec wisdom and of ancient people. And lots of wisdom out there around this world from all
Absolutely.
different cultures. And so I couldn't wait for the book to arrive to read it. So of course I do what I often do is I downloaded the audiobook. And it's a very quick read.
Yes.
The audiobook is like 2.5 hours, I think, ish.
Yeah.
And but it is chock full of just so many pearls and overlapping with so much of other authors that we've talked about and we'll talk about. So
Right.
wisdom is is um is eternal, right?
Yeah.
Truths, I think,
Yes.
are
Yes.
eternal. So this is based the four agreements. I'll go over, and I'm taking this right out of the book. So the first of the agreements is be impeccable with your word. And what they're talking about is that it's so important that we speak with integrity, and that we use words that we truly mean.
Hmm.
Because if we can avoid using the word to speak against ourselves, or to gossip, speak against others,
Hmm.
that is so important, because that is the power, by using the power of the word, in the direct and directing it in truth and in love. And and it talks in the very first chapter about how we are kind of indoctrinated into this dream, this illusion. We are told what to believe. We are told who we are. We are told what is good, what is bad, and a lot of it is very subjective, based on
Hmm.
our our parents, what their needs are, perhaps even in the moment, and so, but we're kind of indoctrinated into that, you know, people pleasing, and pleasing our teachers, and pleasing our church members and authority members. And so we are kind of indoctrinated into that our words, or what we say, are not always what we truly mean, are not always based in truth and love. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think, do you mind if I hop in just for a second here on this one?
No, go right ahead.
Because this was one of the ones that I really was a good reinforcer for me. I think that going I was thinking about this before we were going to talk today, because I think it was going back to one of Ainsley's books that
Hmm.
I read. He also makes this point about it's very important to say what you mean and mean what you say, essentially. Be
Hmm.
impeccable in your word. And I remember that hit me because, speaking of indoctrination, it's socially acceptable. We're taught that it's actually good manners to tell what we typically call little white lies,
Oh, all the
right?
time.
To tell
Hmm.
somebody they look good when maybe they don't necessarily, or they've done something really well when maybe they haven't necessarily, or to use a little white lie to get out of doing something you don't want to do, and again, to spare somebody's feelings. And I remember reading Ainsley's book a few years ago, however many years ago it was. We read them, um, and thinking, I need to stop doing that. I need to stop even the little, like, I've never thought of myself as a liar. Like, I haven't told big lies, I don't think, in my lifetime. Maybe a couple along the way, but so I think I've always thought of myself as a truthful person, but I would use the little white lie thing. from time to time. And I've decided I just need to stop doing that. And I think I've been pretty good about it. If somebody asks me to do something I don't want to do, and I decide, well, am I willing to do it just to keep them happy? In which case I'll go along. Or if I'm not, I could just say, no, thank you. And
Yeah.
no is just a complete sentence. You don't have to say any more than that. It's like, oh, it's kind of you to ask, but no, or I won't be there. I
Yeah.
won't be able to do it, or whatever. I'm unavailable. Whatever it is you want to say that's truthful,
Yeah,
but
exactly. I
just
have other plans. Yeah,
right, right.
whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I love that. I love that reminder that it's okay for me to. It's part of being authentically who I am. My
Exactly.
words, if I don't say exactly what I mean, then I am not authentic. And so
Exactly.
I really loved that sort of reminder and reinforcement for that. I remember making
Yeah.
a very deliberate choice. I'm not going to tell little white lies anymore. I'm not even going to do that. You know.
Yes. Yes. And that's part of how, how he's talking about how we are walking through life in this illusion of, you know, of these kind of this world that we create, you know, to please our surrounding people, right? And because of fear of judgment, because of programming, and that our words are partly unconscious. What we're saying back and forth to each other, mirroring back and forth to each other. Talks about the smoke, like that smoke and mirror thing, and that really becoming conscious of how important our words are. It helps us to wake up, basically. And
Yeah,
that's why being impeccable with our word is so important.
I'm laughing because I had this conversation with my husband, Jim, just yesterday. And he started off by saying, I wish I could remember exactly how he said it. He said something like, um, I don't know if you if I don't remember if I no not wasn't I don't remember something about he said something effective. I'm not sure if I remember telling you something or something like that. And I said, wait. I know I tune you out sometimes. Are you saying that you tune you out sometimes? Like he was essentially the gist of what he was saying was I don't know if I may have spoken this, but I'm not sure. And we just laughed and laughed because it's so
Talk
true.
about
And I
being
yeah,
unconscious, right,
talk
with
about
your
being
words.
unconscious, exactly. And I say, well, it's a version of what I say to him. I'll say, I know I thought something, but did I say it? And it's
Yeah.
those things are kind of in that vein. Am I if I'm really consciously communicating, I should know whether I spoke something along those
Yeah.
lines.
That's
Um,
so funny because
yes.
Matt and I have had similar conversations. I'm like, I think I told you this. He's like, no, you didn't. I'm like, well, I thought I did, but maybe not. It's because we have this ongoing conveyor belt of thoughts and words and
Mhm.
running through our minds all the time. Yeah. So that's so funny that you had a similar conversation recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it is. We go through life on automatic pilot, and so much of it is conditioning from our earliest days, right? Of
Mhm.
of life, and the interactions with our parents and our siblings and our teachers and schoolmates and church, or other community, groups that you may have been formed and interacted with. So yeah, it's just really so anyway, so that's the first agreement.
Oh God, this is gonna be a
All right.
long one.
Yeah, apparently so. So, there's a lot for a small book, there's a whole lot of stuff in here.
Yeah,
Okay, so the second agreement is don't take anything personally. This is a huge one. This is a huge
this is
one
my hardest.
because and let me
Go
yeah,
ahead. No,
I
I'm
think
no.
for
Go ahead.
I think for all of us, right? Um, so I'll just take this right out of the book. Nothing others do is because of you. Let that settle in for a while.
Right.
That is a huge, huge one because I know I get triggered by people. But others say what others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream.
Mhm.
When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't become the victim of needless suffering.
Right.
Wow. And that's where, we all are afraid of being judged. We all are afraid of not being good enough, um, to varying degrees. And and that's that thing where, when people come up and just, you may be humming and they're just ticked because you're in a good mood. So they gotta rain on your parade, right? And just say something. They might lash out and say something ugly. Um, or come at you in some, with some cutting remarks. It's don't take that personally. And in the book he says, write this down and put this on a wall where you're going to see it throughout the day, or,
Right.
because we are, if so many of us, most of us are walking around unconsciously thinking, the thoughts that are running through the mind like a conveyor belt, speaking unconsciously. We're not impeccable with our word, and then we say things to each other based on our own dream, our own illusion, our own stories we're telling ourselves that may or may not be valid or true.
Right.
um and then that's how we kind of perpetuate this suffering in ourselves, and then also rain down on others with it. And so, yeah, so that's another big one.
Yeah, this to me, this was the one that of the four, this is the one that is the biggest challenge for me. And
Mhm.
I've seen variations of this before, like the 12-step recovery groups that we were part of early on in our
Yeah.
journey, said, people don't do things to you; they just do things, right?
Yes.
And you have your perspective about what those things mean. Um, but it's just it's everything, right? It's everything from driving down the road and I'll hear a horn honk and I go, what? I'm not doing anything wrong. It's like the world revolves around me, and if a
Yes.
horn goes off somewhere, it's because somebody's trying to communicate to me, and they're doing so unjustly because I've done nothing to deserve a beep, for crying out loud. It's
Or the
that.
tall finger or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's that minute, right? And it really goes
Mhm.
to our egocentricity. Everything
Yeah.
is about us. Everything revolves around us.
Mhm.
And we always talk about children as being egocentric, but frankly, we don't really grow out of that, right?
I don't think so.
We get better at controlling the tantrums. Like the tantrum is on the inside as opposed to the
Yeah.
outside, maybe, or
Yeah.
at least partially.
But
Um,
some people haven't mastered that very
for
well
some of us,
either.
or not a tantrum, right? My daughter uses the word big feelings with my grandson. She'll
Big
say,
feelings.
he'll
Yeah, I
she'll
like
say, we
that.
had some big feelings between 9 and 10 o'clock this morning, and but
Oh
it's
boy.
true. It's true. It's
Yeah.
just that by the time we're adults, we've learned that the big feelings are not going to get us social acceptance, and so we
No.
channel them in different ways rather than just going ah in some kind of existential way like a 2-year-old would, just like I just feel awful and I'm not quite sure what to do about it, and we do something else. We slam things,
Yeah.
we use bad words, we drink too much, we eat a lot of things that maybe we're not really hungry for but just stuff it in, whatever.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of consequences to taking
Mhm.
things so personally, right?
Yeah,
If we could
there
just
are.
be like the duck, the proverbial duck, and let it roll off our backs, how much peace would that bring us?
And
But
how much
to do,
suffering would that relieve?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I find this one to be the most difficult to live by, really.
Mhm. It is, but a really beautiful one. And okay, and moving on to the third one. Uh, don't make assumptions. Wow. We project to others so much of
Oh
our
yeah,
lives. So they're talking about find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings and sadness and drama.
right.
And then with just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. Yeah, by don't make assumptions. And and I think we do that based on our own life experiences, so it's really hard to not have those projections or those assumptions when you're interacting with someone and you're observing how they're behaving or what they're saying, and you start, yeah, you start pigeonholing. I call it pigeonholing. Put them in this category,
Right.
right? And it really, it's also, and we do this with, and that's where, I mean, kind of gossip ties in. You know, we mean well, I think. A lot of times people mean well. For example, if you have a professor, let's take professors, for example. And you go, "Oh, don't take that professor's." I heard this a number of times. "Don't take his course. He's so hard, he's so tough, and you'll never, you'll it'll he'll take this other one. She's easier, or she's nicer." Or,
Right.
and it's funny because I actually, the one I'm thinking of, my anatomy and physiology instructor, I took him for as many courses as I could because he was so thorough, and I knew that he would prepare me well.
Right.
And he did. Did I do great on the first exam in his class? No, I did not. But I went to him and talked to him. I mean, I passed it
Hmm.
barely, but I wanted to really, I said, I got to know this information. I've got to,
Yeah.
and I ended up going from barely passing that first exam to acing his exams and making all of the extra credit points. I was blowing the curve because I learned how to study. He helped me to learn how to study
Right.
and
Right.
what to focus on.
Right.
And so I learned a lot from him. But if I listened to the gossip about how tough he was and all that, I would have missed out on that opportunity, which was really a great opportunity for me to learn how to learn better, learn how
Right.
to focus
Oh,
better.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And so, yeah, so but that's all part of that. Don't make assumptions. If I had listened to some of the classmates and taken the other instructor that they said was much easier, I would have missed out on some really great opportunities for growth.
Yeah.
So I think that making assumptions can really, yeah, can really cause us to miss out on some wonderful opportunities in this life. Yeah.
I also think that I'm thinking of kind of a corollary here to this in like our intimate relationships, perhaps with a love partner or family members we're very
Yeah.
close to, is that we can sometimes assume, right, that if this person really loved me, cared about me because they supposedly know me so well, they would know what I need in this moment. They would
Yes.
know to do X, right?
Oh, yes. Mhm.
And so this is something I think I've talked about in another context on the podcast before, but something I learned a number of years ago is to be kind of like this is kind of where the impeccable in your word meets the assumptions. Is that I learned to just come out and say, this is what I need. This is
Yes.
exactly what I need right now in this moment, as opposed to just sort of sitting back and assuming this person will do what I need them to do for me, to support me, love me
Read
through
my mind.
a
Right.
difficult
Read my
time.
mind
Yeah.
if you love me. Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
right. So that we can't and we can't just assume, even people we know really well, we can't assume that we know what's going on for them right now. I
Exactly.
still misread people sometimes. I think they're upset when they're not. They're just quiet, or
Yes.
so right. Going back to those asking questions, but then the flip side of that is if you're in a relationship, the being impeccable and being very clear and honest about what's happening and what you need. That's how you create the best interpersonal dynamic, right? If both of you are living by those two
Absolutely.
things.
Absolutely. Yeah, we make assumptions all the time
Yeah.
in our intimate relationships, and most of them are not spot on.
You're right.
Because
Right.
we can't help but project our own dream, our own story that we're telling ourselves in our
Our,
mind.
our
And
own
that
needs, our
story,
own desires, our own everything,
absolutely.
right? How would we see this
Yeah,
situation, you know?
absolutely.
And they might not
Everything
see
is
it the
through
same
that
way.
filter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that bias. All right. And then the fourth agreement is always do your best, which I think is pretty straightforward, but you know, by by doing our best from moment to moment, I mean, it's going to be different based on where we are in that moment, if we're healthy or if, if I'm sick, or I have a migraine headache. There's an example. I've lived with migraines for years. I go to work. I'm doing the best I can in that moment
Mhm.
with in each interaction with each person, but I'm obviously not at my best
Right.
if I'm in the middle of a migraine and I was dry heaving that morning at 3 a.m. before going to work. I mean, it's just but simply just doing the best that we can, um, moment to moment, and without the self-judgment, without the self-abuse, without that we all, I think, do to varying degrees of and and that that's how we can live a life without regret. And I just think that's a great I mean, just a great way to try to live.
Yeah.
It's a high ideal. But, that's something that, I mean, I think you and I have talked about throughout our recovery. How many times have I said to you, "I just wanna do what's right. I just wanna do the right
Yeah.
thing. I
Yeah.
I don't wanna cause any harm. I just wanna do the right thing."
Right.
And that's coming from that agreement of wanting to do my best. And I think, of course, we're not gonna be perfect in this, right?
Mhm.
Um, we're gonna have we're gonna have moments of weakness, or just moments of being in that smoke, where we just are not totally conscious. But that's the transformation we're walking toward. We're walking toward being fully conscious
Right.
and not slipping back into our unconscious state.
Well, and as
So,
we walk that path, being
mhm,
transparent about where we are is important. So I'm thinking about the example
yeah,
that you gave with having a headache at work. And
mhm,
and as I'm thinking about my own experience with that, I see how these things all come together again. So I don't get headaches very often, but I'm a real weenie when I do. Like I cannot imagine having a migraine and working like that. Just no, no, no. So
I've
hats
done
off
it
to you, girlfriend, because
done
if
it for
I had a
decades.
migraine, I would not be working. So, but I every once in a while will have a headache, and usually if I can take a couple of Excedrin and lay down for 20 minutes, it goes away and I'm fine. But I'm not always able to do that. So I do have this policy where if I walk into a class and I've got a headache, I will tell them that I have a headache. And I'll
Mhm,
say, okay, I just want you to know before we start today, I'm not 100%. I have a headache. And I'm not telling you that to get sympathy. I'm telling you that because I know that human beings are meaning makers. And if I sit up here and scowl, right, and I'm making faces, you're going to sit there and go, why is she scowling? Is she mad at us? Are we not getting it? Does she think we're stupid? Like so they'll be making assumptions about why I'm not the person they would normally see in front of the classroom. So I'm trying to be transparent in my inability to be at my best, and you know what I'm saying? So these things
yeah,
all
no, that's
come
great.
together. If they really do, they all depend on each other. It's not as though you could
Yeah,
do one successfully without doing the others, which is
yeah.
really interesting.
Well, and that's so the exact opposite of what I have done in my work, just talking about our work,
Yeah.
because as a healthcare provider, most of the time people don't want to know you personally. They don't care. You are a medical vending machine. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have been bawled out by people, chewed out. I mean, they're sincere in their tongue lashing they're giving me because I took vacation time to go be with my children and grandchildren or to
Wow.
go see you.
And they couldn't
I
see you when they
and
wanted
they
to?
couldn't get in to see me when they wanted to see me,
Oh my.
so I get a tongue lashing. So in my profession, I gotta be perfect, right? I
Yeah.
can't make mistakes. I mean, and
Right.
that's the pressure that I've been living with in my job. So I'm not allowed to get sick. I can't tell you how many times, before COVID-19 pandemic, let me give that disclaimer, that I had a slam full schedule, and I had to go to work sick because they're just that was the expectation
Yeah.
of the the physicians I worked with, um, and I'm not allowed to get sick, and I'm not allowed to have needs, and that's kind of the attitude, if I, God forbid, okay, not to be too graphic, but the stress of my work causes IBS. And part of that was already from our childhood
Yeah, that was in,
conditioning
yeah,
and trauma,
right.
but the stress of my work brings that out. And when I the days that I don't have to go to work, it is like 100% better. But so there are times that I have to take a bathroom break. Oh my gosh.
God
And
forbid.
a patient has to wait to see me because sorry, I'm a human being with physical bodily functions. And so I literally will get a tongue lashing because they had to wait. So, my days are I go to work and I start hitting room to room to room to room. There is no lunch break, truly. I'm doing medication refills and test results and, and emails that patients send and then room to room to room. And so it's but it's funny how I have felt pressured to put on that perfect facade, right? I'm not a human being. I don't have needs.
Right.
I'm here for you and I got to be perfect.
Wow.
And it's
Yeah.
just interesting how that pressure of or expectation and maybe it's all self-imposed, but I don't think so. I think a lot of it is our society and the institution I work for and our quality value program and our all of that stuff, And so I want to be as authentic as I can be everywhere. And I'm attempting to do that more in interacting with people. But gosh, 10 years ago, would I have told my patients that I had a migraine and I was dry heaving that morning? Heck no.
Right.
And thankfully those migraines have subsided in recent years. They're very, very rare now. But yeah, but I think and possibly part of that is even some of more of this energetic healing that you and I have both been doing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
very diligent, very, very actively,
Deliberately, yes.
diligently. Yeah. But it's interesting because yeah, I think we all benefit from when we each show up as fully and truthfully and honestly as ourselves
Yes.
without the masks, without the assumptions. And yeah, and I love this book so much because I think that it really, really helps remind. And it's probably, like I said, it's overlapping with a lot of other wonderful philosophies that are out there. And I think all the ancient wisdoms do.
Well, it's
Um,
like Brian Weiss, we talked about the map that he does in the back of Messages
yeah,
from the Masters, right? That
yes,
these, the great religions of the world, or the ones that have
absolutely.
spread, have such great similarities to them.
Absolutely. And this book is just a little gold mine of little
Yeah.
gems and gives you a lot to I've listened to it twice. I'm going to listen I'll be listening to it some more cuz it's one of those that you just pick up more. You pick up more
Yes.
information the next time you listen to it. So
Well, you're
it's
also in a
it's a
different
it's a
place, and so you hear things differently.
absolutely. Yeah,
But it's
absolutely.
great that I mean, your description of your work experience and the pressures you feel are a beautiful illustration of what he's talking about. How
Yeah.
much of the world, the normal society that most of us move through, does not enforce, support, expect us to live with this kind of authenticity,
Right.
right?
Right.
We're expected to
So
play
we're
our roles and hide behind our masks and keep everything
absolutely.
smoothly running the way it always has.
And how unhealthy that is for us
Yeah,
in so many ways, and certainly physically and spiritually. I think it squashes us.
right,
And so this is an invitation to take off some of those masks and let yourself breathe
right.
and be your authentic self. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
We are all love and light. That's the other thing that it says in the very beginning of the book. We are all love and light.
Yeah,
And we are a reflection of that love and light in each other.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Well, I guess that's a good place I need to stop for this time. And we're excited that all 7 of our listeners were able to be with us. I hope they all
Yes,
were.
thank you. Yes, thank you so much for being with us on this journey.
That's right.
It's a joy. Joy
Yep.
to share this with you. Yeah,
Another step, another podcast, another step on the
absolutely.
path. So until our next step, we are wishing you all much love and light.
And so many, many blessings.
Always many, many blessings. Be well.
Yes. Be very well.